So with a smoky eye that's a little bit darker and more smoldering, I'm going to go in with a gel. This gel is sort of an eggplant tone and has a slight bit of shimmer to it. I'm going to remove this from my hand, and it's been removed because it is an emollient base, onto a flat brush. So this will be applied onto the eye, and then you need to have a tapered fluffy blender standing by for an immediate blending of whatever color to set the gel that you'd like. And in this case, since it is more of an eggplanty tone, I'm going to go with purples. So on that palette, I would pick just kind of like neutral plum tones, kind of grapey purples, and have them standing by on my brush. Because again, when you're working with gel, there is a little bit of workability time, and then it dries down. And once it dries down, it is down. So I'm going to paint this a little further up the lid than what we first have done. So painting it up the lid, packing it in gently. And then I'm going to go immediately, tap off my blender, and pack this into the gel and slowly blend it out. This is a makeup look that will cause a lot of fallout. So try not to get too distracted with the amount of fallout at first, because we can clean it up rather easily. And this can go well up into the crease, and you'll see it starts to get really dark a little bit further up into the brow bone than maybe you are used to, but this is definitely a popular smoky eye technique and one that you'll be using a lot. So as you can see, open, you can start to see how smoldering and beautiful that blend is. Open real quick. So you can see how it's starting to really deepen that lid quite a bit more than what we did. So same thing on the other. A big thing with using any kind of gel, eyeliner, or a cream eyeshadow is making sure that you're not over applying it and you're not under applying it, because if you apply too much, then you'll never blend it down. You'll always get creasy lines and your color saturation will be weird. So if you apply too little, you won't be able to blend it out and you'll get dry lines. So right in here, it'll start to dry down too quickly because you didn't apply enough. So it's that sweet spot between too much and too little. And you can see on my hand how much I had on there. And again, just following her natural crease line inside the socket, not guessing, following it all the way down and around. It's so important that you're feeling for the bones and not guessing in all parts of application, the eyes, the skin, all of it. Okay, go ahead and open. And you can see how I'm kind of extending that silhouette very slightly to a little bit further into her outer corner than you would for like a bridal or a beauty look like we just did. But it's still pretty contained within the brow. And this is a big thing for beauty or editorial, is keeping that silhouette or the shape the eyeshadow makes contained in that brow. Once we start to go outside of the brow and around and up, and it creates just a different vibe. So keep it contained in that brow to the best of your ability. Okay, and open your eyes. So now we're going to start our cleanup. Dust away your fallout really quickly, and then we're going to go ahead and apply to the bottom lash line. So the less pressure you apply on fallout, the better. You don't want to crush the pigment and create streaks. So sizing down my brush, going back into that gel that I have applied to my hand. Look up, turn this way. I want to press this into her lashes really closely. We're going to use a mixture of both the gel and a liner to tightline. So tightlining is when you line the inner waterline of the lower and upper lash lines. And typically with something this dark and smoldering or kind of rock and roll, you would always tightline because it really anchors the entire look and brings it to its correct depth. Okay. So going in and tightlining really gently and slowly, giving her enough time to blink between my movements. And you'll learn pretty quickly to work with people's rhythms of how they blink, and not expecting that they will change the way that they behave for you. I mean, of course, you expect that your client sits still and gives you the respect that is required to do a good job, but you also have to understand that they still have natural biological movements that have to be taken into consideration when you're doing their makeup. So make sure that your liner is pressed in between the lashes, as we've discussed is so important. I'm going to give her a chance to blink for a second to get some of that fallout out of her eyes. One thing you have to be really careful about is people who are wearing contacts. She is wearing contacts, and this can be a little bit of an uncomfortable look for someone with contacts because it is so much work in and around and close to the eyes. So just be really conscious of that and watch natural cues to see if someone is overly uncomfortable and maybe not telling you. This will be like extra twitchy body movements. Maybe they keep blinking, their eyes are watering. Pay attention and make sure to honor that and stop for a moment. So good. Same thing on the other side. Go in at kind of an angle, tilted upward, so that as you stipple and slowly press it into the lash line, you get a tight line inside and inside the lashes. And I kind of rewound the way I'm doing this because on this side I did the gel first, and on this side I'm doing the KHOL pencil first. So it's not a huge problem. Sometimes you'll do little things like that where you forget you did one thing before the other. But just go in and even it out. Once I'm done with this, I'll go in with the gel and even her out. Okay. So this is the gel now. So this is the gel now on this eye. And I'm trying to be really gentle and really just move slowly. Methodically, but slowly. Because it does require makeup artistry, and application requires confidence. It requires you to put yourself in the position of authority of, knowing you need to do a good job and knowing what you need for that. But again, just be aware of clients' needs. So I'm just evening her out a little. Again, check your work. The best place when you're learning is to check your work in a mirror. And I want to make sure both of my lines are about even. We don't want uneven lines on both sides and smudgy. So this will get smudged out once both sides are done. Smoothed out. You never want unintentional lines wherever an eyeliner is applied. You want to make sure it's nice and smudged or blended, unless you're doing something that is an intentional line, like a cat eye or something structural. But for the most part, we want to steer clear of that. Go this way. I always go inside this little area in the tear duct. Again, tight lining the top. Okay, so now we're going to start our cleanup and move into skin.